Welcome to the Delta F1 podcast, your pit stop to all things F1 and more. And today you are with your host. I'm Bryce, and this is Alan. And today we're going to be talking about the round one Bahrain, the first round of the longest season in F1 history. Today we just had the qualifying. So we're going to be taking a look at the qualifying results, our takeaways, as well as our predictions for the race tomorrow.
Yeah, super excited to finally get the season started. Kind of an uneventful, in my opinion, qualifying, but it was super close as far as the top 10. They were separated or the top 9 were separated under a second. Hulkenberg was at 10th, a little bit over a second, but I don't think he was really super competitive compared to the top 9. But very interesting. A lot of takeaways from this qualifying. Nothing really surprising as far as who finished number 1. But yeah, super interesting to get into it and get ready for the first Grand Prix tomorrow.
Yeah, no, it's definitely cool to see the cars running at speed. The sandbags are out. Nobody's playing games anymore. It's all on the table. And it was really cool to see how all the cars, stacked up. And to add to your point, yeah, it was extremely, extremely close. You had Max Verstappen, obviously, get this out of the way, on pole with a 129.1. Even if you go all the way down to 20th, it's a 130. It's a 139. 130.9. So still very close throughout the grid, and actually really appears to be even closer than it was last year throughout the entire grid, which is awesome to see.
I really do think positions 2 to 9th throughout the whole season, driver positions, is going to be very tight. I think all of those drivers are going to be going back and forth, beating each other and having, it's going to be super competitive. Everyone's going to be at the top of their game. I think Max is still, in my opinion, one of the biggest takeaways from this qualifying is that he's still the man everyone is chasing. You know what I mean? He still has a super fast car. Even Checo, as far as, chasing, he kind of lower standards in 5th, but he usually never really has good qualifying and he makes up for it in the race. But maybe that's the same case this year. But Max, I think he's still the man, unfortunately. But it is definitely closer than last year, so I think it'll be more interesting to see how it plays out throughout the whole season.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I think just that whole group that ended up in Q3, it'll be really interesting. It'll be super track dependent, I think, as to who ends up where. And it looks like Alan is changing his cameras.
Bro,
just move the thing in front of the camera and use this camera.
Oh my god.
Just there's something on the camera, just take it off.
Oh my god. Alright. Where were we? Max is still the man.
He's still the man to be.
Everyone's chasing.
To you watching, did it seem like he had more pace at hand that he could have unleashed? Do you think he was holding back? Do you think he was really pushing it? What are your thoughts?
I think the car surprised Max even himself. I don't know if you heard of the radio after he finished his final lap. Basically told GP that that's not going to be pole. So he wasn't really confident in that lap. I think everyone just underperformed in Q3 as far as, the other cars. I think Charles even said it afterwards in his interview that he was disappointed in himself that he couldn't really, defeat Max and getting P1. So I think, in my opinion, Max is still trying to learn his car for this year. Obviously, it's the first qualifying, but the power is still there. I think the dominance is still there. I think he's just uncovering, which I think he's going to do fairly quickly in the beginning, very early in the season. So I think it's a combination of that.
Yeah, he still had quite a large margin above Leclerc, about 2.5 tenths for all intensive purposes. And it seemed like he was, to me, it seemed like he was able to pull that off. I know he thought maybe that wasn't good enough for pole, but it seemed somewhat effortless out of the car, when you were watching the onboards.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he definitely makes it look easy. What are your biggest takeaways from qualifying? What surprised you most? Because I don't know if we were surprised to see Max on pole.
I think for me, other side of the standings, Alpine finishing 19th and 20th.
Yeah.
I think they're in big trouble this year. I think they're in big trouble. I think I saw comments of them being overweight. I mean, they made comments about if they finished above 19th and 20th, it'd be a win for them this season. But I mean, they were dead last. It was just super unfortunate, and it's going to be a long season for them. I hope I'm wrong, but to start off like this, I mean, they have a super big team. I mean, they were what, P4 last year in the season. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just not a good start. And then for them to be basically our carbon fiber, to be on the weight savings standpoint, and for them to still be P19, P20th,
Yeah.
like that's just, for me, that's kind of says a lot. They have a lot of work to do. Obviously, you said before even qualifying was over, they were already working on both cars, so they're starting from the pit lane tomorrow. So I mean, that just tells you that they're spending as much time as they can in the car. So probably we're going to finish 19th and 20th tomorrow. It's just going to be kind of like a test race, I guess, unfortunately, for them tomorrow.
Well, yeah, that's what you'd hope. You'd hope that they would take all the everything and hopefully attack the issue and try to make it better and use the race as a test session. I mean, we've seen big swings in this regulation, with the likes of McLaren being at a similar trajectory last year. But so we know where they qualified very easily this year. Without looking back, I have it in front of me. Where do you recall them qualifying last year?
McLaren?
No, Alpine.
Probably what, 14th, 15th kind of
No, so actually Ocon,
positions.
Esteban Ocon, qualified 9th. He made it into Q3. And Gasly was actually 20th, but I don't know.
Went up to 9th.
Without looking,
top 10 finish.
Yeah, and then he finished in the points actually during the race.
Ocon finished dead last.
Oh yeah, so they did a little swap.
Mm-hmm.
But still, I mean, it's a huge fall. Huge fall.
Well, especially to get beaten by. I mean, they were P4 last year. I mean, they were middle of the pack, and I mean, like I said, it's probably just the first season. But
well, they weren't P4 because
that
would have been Aston.
P4. Oh right. So where were they at? 7?
They were like P6, I think maybe. Because it was Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, Aston, McLaren, then Alpine P6? Maybe. I don't know, P6. I'd have to look exactly to see where they finished. But yeah, I mean, and for a works team too, that's just not good enough.
Right.
That is just not good enough for a works
team. Because they have these big sponsors and whatnot.
Yeah.
Definitely underperforming regardless, but that's for me one of my biggest concerns. I think they're in big trouble. Another takeaway for me before you show and express your takeaways. I think going back to the beginning of our intro, I think second place this year is going to be up for grabs. I think there's going to be a lot of drivers that can take that second spot. And it's not going to be confirmed just for Checo, just because he's in Red Bull. But I think Charles has something to say about it. And obviously, even Russell maybe. I mean, Hamilton potentially. But Sainz, I think and even the McLaren boys, you know what I mean? They might be up for contention, although they're a little bit underwhelming today. But I'm very excited to see second and third place, kind of how it shapes up throughout the whole season.
Yeah, I think the podium, the bottom stands of the bottom two spots of the podium will be very interesting to see who ends up where. Bottom two spots, the bottom two steps, whichever you'd like to call it.
You said spots like in a British accent.
Spots.
What are your biggest takeaways?
Too much Crofty. I was definitely surprised with.
Did you hear that Crofty's taking time off this year?
Oh, when?
He's taking I don't know if it's like consecutive races, but he's actually taking time off, and it's like the first time in, I believe, over a decade. but like it's forced
Wow.
for him to be more kind of fresh for the end of the season. But isn't that crazy?
That is
You
crazy.
did.
That's very interesting.
Maybe you can replace him.
Oh, dude, I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could. I don't know. Like in the
Send us
dead
like a
moments of the
regular.
race, what do you talk about? You know, in the dead moments of the race when nothing's happening, nobody's pitting, everyone's just running. There hasn't been an
Something's
overtake in
always
18
happening.
laps.
Max is just away by 45 seconds.
Yeah, you got to be able to. You got to be able just to talk shit and have a lot
I'm sure
of
there's some sort of protocol.
facts. Like, yeah, I just think
I
it's
mean, it's
so
definitely
crazy.
hard, but
You know, like even
that's
the
how they do it.
he busted out the facts of like, oh, the Alpine hasn't been the bottom two, or they haven't qualified in the bottom two spots since I think they said like Baku 2016 or something like that. You know, like it's crazy the facts they have lined up.
Well, they have probably statisticians, stats people for that. I'm assuming. I mean, for them to do the research and all that.
Right, maybe, but
But
nonetheless,
anyways, going back to your takeaways.
yeah, my takeaways. I was pretty surprised to not see a Visa Cash App Red Bull in Q3. You know, I thought
Yeah,
Daniel Ricciardo started the weekend at a hot start, being topping the timesheets in the first practice session, and they looked decent. I know they were close, but I was pretty surprised, yeah, to see them not make it in. Very surprised to see again just Hulkenberg in Q3. I mean, he's like the Leclerc of the midfield. I don't know.
good lap.
Yeah, he pulls it out when it's necessary. You know, like you said, he wasn't super close in Q3. You know, the gap between him and Hamilton is 0.8 of a second, but still very impressive. And then yeah, just like you, very surprised to see the Alpines as low as they were, and yeah, just
Sargent
there's
finally
there.
didn't finish 20th.
Oh yeah, good day from him. But and actually, I
He
mean,
actually had a good lap.
yeah,
He had good
yeah,
pace.
no, yeah, he had decent pace. He was still 5/10 away from Albon, but uh, you
Nothing,
know, not too
nothing
bad, not too bad.
huge.
Neither of them made it into well, I guess he didn't make it into
Q3.
Q2, but neither of them made it into Q3. But yeah, I mean, other than that,
Right.
surprised to see kind of where the McLarens ended up. Thought maybe they'd end up a little bit higher, and yeah, and then Hamilton just seemed he did break the barrier of the 130s, but it just seemed like every lap when I was watching, everyone was like 129, 129, 129. He just like 130, 130, 130.
Yeah.
But he finally did with his last lap get into the 129 sevens. So again,
I
biggest
read
takeaways. Oh, go ahead.
I said I read a little bit about Hamilton that he from FP3 to qualifying, or FP2 to FP3, they did change a little bit of the car because obviously Mercedes was leading the times after
Mm-hmm.
FP2, so they tweaked it a little bit, and I think I read that Hamilton took a little bit of a risk in changing his car in hopes that come race pace it's a little bit different, but it did sacrifice a little bit of one lap pace. So maybe that's the case. Obviously, whatever they did, it's different than what George route was. So I mean, it's a risk, but maybe it'll pay out tomorrow, and he'll be able to come up. But I mean, 6 spots are separating him and Russell. I mean, it's kind of a big, it's a big gap. I mean, I'm hoping he can climb and
Yeah.
have a better result, but I don't know.
Yeah. Sacrificing some qualifying pace for the race is great, right? But when you
Right,
lose 6 spots because of it,
right.
you know what is the cost? Because he's going to be behind. He's behind the McLarens. He's behind Alonso. He's behind the Ferraris. He's behind Russell. You know, I mean, he's.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's
It's
any
gonna be tough for
threat
sure.
coming up from him from behind. But yeah, the sac.
Uh, yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Hamilton's known to be like that, I think. But even George said at the beginning of the season that this car is tailored more towards Hamilton. So it's kind of surprising that if that is the case and if that is true, George still overperformed and beat Hamilton, which is I don't know. It's going to be a weird season, interesting season, but it'll be um, cool to see how they fight it out tomorrow. I do think Hamilton's going to climb up, but as far as beating Russell, unless something unexpected happens, I don't think that's going to happen.
You think he makes it to the podium?
Hamilton?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. That's what I'm
No.
saying. I was like, I don't think he'll beat Russell.
Yeah.
Maybe top
Yeah.
five, but that's putting a stretch on it.
Yeah. I mean, you could definitely see top 5. I think. It just kind of depends on how the McLarens do in race pace.
Yeah.
This track doesn't suit their car necessarily. It'll be interesting to see how Alonso does in the Aston Martin, comparatively to race pace, and then
You
yeah,
know,
I mean a lot would have to happen
Bar-
actually for him to get into the top 5. I think.
Bahrain, I think, in my opinion, is kind of an underrated track. I think it's actually a very fun track, in my opinion.
Like to watch.
So it's going to be interesting. Yeah, I think so. I mean, especially under the lights, and then with track temperatures today, with the wind and whatnot, it can play into a lot. It can affect a lot. So it's always interesting to see. But I love the Bahrain track. I love racing on it on the video game,
Yeah,
and it's just really really nice. But I
yeah,
want
it
to I
is
want to
a
ask you a question
modern
though.
classic. Yeah.
Based off Q qualifying, the first one, round
Mm-hmm.
one in Bahrain. Max obviously finishing P1.
Yeah.
Not super exciting news, but is the season over? Is Max just going to run away with it?
The fact that Leclerc did have a faster, I don't know. I think it's really because it's so hard to judge off of qualifying, right? Because
Right.
you know there's been so many times where the Ferrari is faster over a lap and so on and so forth. I think to get a better picture, if it's over, it'll have to come down to the strides that Ferrari made with their race car, with their car on well, I guess Saturday in this case, but Sundays.
Mm-hmm. Right.
If Ferrari made a good enough step, which they are saying they have, there might be a chance. But I definitely think it'll be interesting to see. I think that Max Verstappen is going to have a really strong start to the season. I could see Max Verstappen have a very strong start to the season, and maybe some of the other teams might be able to push back. But yeah,
If I'm not mistaken, the last 16 times Max has started on pole, he's won the race. So tomorrow will be 17.
yeah,
So is he going to add to that? I have no indication that that's not going to happen. So
right.
I
Yeah,
do
there's
think
nothing saying
that
it won't happen.
I do think he's going to have a strong start to the season. I mean, he's just on a different level. I think
Yeah,
it probably is too early to tell. I do truly believe that it's closer throughout the season. I think Ferrari has improved. I think Charles and Sainz have said that, but they also had said that Red Bull is still, on a different level. They're still ahead of them, and there's still a gap to decrease. But
yeah. Red
I'm
Bull's the
hoping it's a
team to
little bit
beat.
closer. I think Ferrari is definitely number two. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. It seems like Ferrari's kind of gotten their stuff together. I think with the leadership of Fred this year, uh, it is
Hmm.
just much. It seems to be just being ran better. I don't know, but no, I think Red Bull's still the team to beat. To short answer the
Oh
question.
yeah, for sure.
What about you? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Now,
Do you think if Leclerc was on pole, would we be talking about the downfall of Red Bull right now, or would we just
no,
think that Max is going to pass him in the race and go on
yes.
to win by a
I mean, it
margin?
would be a more. I think it's going to be a fun first couple races. I mean, if you saw it, they have changed the DRS rules.
Yeah,
So obviously, after lap one, DRS is going to be activated. So I'm predicting that Max is going to be leading after lap one, but I'm hoping that Charles is not too far behind or Russell for them to actually, still be within 1 second to have DRS, so it can be a little bit of more of an eventful race in the first 10 to 15 laps. But
Yeah.
if he breaks that 1 second barrier, I think it's just, I mean, their pit crew is exceptional. You know what I mean? They have, you know, always super fast stops that never really seem to fail. Um, I think even if Ferrari and if Leclerc would have been P1, I mean, yeah, it would have been made headlines for sure because Red Bull would have been P2. But I think race pace wise, Ferrari's still not there with Red Bull. So I think Max would have been leading after 2 laps. I mean, that would have been
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been surprised.
Well, this track will be a crazy track to see the new DRS rules because you have 3 DRS
Mm-hmm.
zones. And so all you have to
Right.
do is get through lap 1 and hold
They're
on within
back
a
to
second,
back.
which if he pulls away a second in lap 1, I would be very surprised. I mean, they'll
Right.
probably fight down into turn 1, right? They'll still get a good slipstream going up the hill
Who's
into turn 3.
Where's the inside line? Is it P1 or P2? P2? No.
P2 has the inside line, but it's the dirty side of the track.
Yeah.
The dirty side of the track. I don't
I
know.
don't know.
Uh,
Max doesn't
they'll
always have good starts though. Good releases. I think Charles has some on
he's
his feet
gotten
on him.
Yeah, he's gotten better, I think, actually. Like they did
Oh yeah.
something with the car recently where he got like actually much better with his starts. But no, that's
Mm-hmm.
very true that he doesn't have great starts. So going into it, what would you say your predictions for the race are? Now that we're kind of on that topic, anyways. Who's your top 5?
I mean, I think I'll start from 5 to 1 because obviously I think we're both in agreement who's going to be finishing first. For me, fifth, George. I think
Okay.
he has a good race, but unfortunately, he drops down a little bit. Maybe a bad pit stop or something. I don't know. Or loses some race pace or whatnot or strategy or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I have George Russell and fifth. Carlos Sainz, I have him at fourth. I think he had a very good practice session. I think qualifying, he was still there. He couldn't put it all together. So I have him in fourth. For third, I have Checo. I think like last year, he usually has not so great qualifying sessions, but in the race, he has great race pace alongside Red Bull and Max. He's able to come and overcome it. So he comes back at P3. And second, I think I have Charles. I'm hoping that it's not too big of a gap from P2 to P1, but
Mm-hmm.
Charles Leclerc I have in my P2, and obviously nothing but of a surprise, but Max at P1. And I'm hoping, like I said, the DRS changes and whatnot is a little bit more of an eventful race, especially in the beginning. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think, is statistically speaking, do you think we'll see any red flags tomorrow?
Probably not. Red flags have become more and more common. Like years ago, you like would hardly ever see red flags. I feel like they've become a little bit more common recently, but it's
Mm-hmm.
I doubt it. I mean, I think the last time we saw a red
I
flag at
mean,
Bahrain, when was that? When was that the race that Roman Grosjean had that terrible accident?
oh, if you had that bad accident, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm hoping there's some yellow flags if Max does, create a big gap. There's some yellow flags that, bunch up the pack and whatnot. None of that VSC type stuff, but
Yeah, I
yeah,
hope. Yeah,
we'll
I mean
see.
the a safety car would make it interesting if Max starts to pull away. Um, but yeah, no, I mean my predictions are relatively similar. Uh, I could see George falling back a bit, and so I do have him fifth. And
Who do you
then
have fifth?
I act
Sorry, cut out.
George Russell.
Oh, so we both have him at fifth.
So I have him at fifth. However, I think that Carlos Sainz, like you said, he's been showing great signs of pace. No pun intended. Um, so I do not have him fourth. I actually have Perez fourth. With
Hmm.
Carlos Sainz in third, Leclerc second, and Red Bull first. Or Red Bull. Verstappen, Mr. Red Bull
Max. So you
himself.
got George, Checo, Sainz, Charles. So a Ferrari 2-3, huh?
Yeah, I
Podium?
think Ferrari gets both cars on the podium, and I think it just will show. If you can't tell by the shirt that we're wearing, we're rooting for Ferrari this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But no,
Interesting. I
I
mean,
hope in terms of race
we have
pace we
all
can
five the
see.
same driver.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think the order will shift a whole lot because the thing is, it's like I don't see Fernando Alonso fighting through and beating a Perez or a Sainz or even one of the Mercedes. The McLarens, I don't really see them fighting through necessarily. And then Hamilton, I don't know if he can dig himself out of ninth to get into the top five. You know, like if I had to put sixth, my money would probably be on Hamilton if the changes that he made really do benefit him in the race as much as he says they will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I'm in agreement with you. I don't think there'll be much difference. I'd be surprised if Hamilton is able to come up and even be in top five. But I'm praying that it does happen. But it's kind of interesting that we both have the same top five drivers, just in different positions. I think
Yeah.
it's pretty common.
Yeah, no, like I said, I really don't see a big shift in the order of the grid.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, unless Ferrari doesn't solve the issue with the tires, which they said they have. I don't know. But all I'm hoping for is a close race. Do you see the Alpines being able to dig themselves out of 19th and 20th?
I mean, I'd be surprised if they don't finish 15 and below. So I would be. I don't think that they have a good race. I think they'll finish 18th, 19th, both of them.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
Yeah, I don't. I think if they finish outside of the bottom two spots, it's because of a retirement, you know, um,
Mm-hmm.
or a massive penalty or
Right.
some crazy lucky circumstances, safety car. I don't know. I think it would take a lot for them to finish outside of the bottom two spots. I think they're going to probably kind of like McLaren last year, treat it like a test day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think that's exactly what they're gonna do. So I really don't. I don't think personally they even have any high hopes for them at all. I think like you
no,
said, it's gonna be a test, pretty much a test session as well, and just gonna learn from it and hopefully be better for the next race. But I don't really see a hopeful. How do you feel about Lando and Oscar? What do you think they'll do?
I they're very close, which is great to see, and that was actually that hasn't been a question for a long time. Oscar's been
Mm-hmm.
very close to Lando, but I do think they get ahead of. I really hope they get ahead of the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they'll take home a decent points haul tomorrow. Um, the car doesn't seem too well suited for Bahrain, just in general. I don't think that this is like
Mm-hmm.
a mega strong track for them. But they did well, I think, to qualify seventh and eighth. I think that they should be happy with that, and keep pushing as the season moves forward.
Right.
What do you think?
I think they. I do think they get over the Aston Martin and they finish ahead of them, but
Mm-hmm.
not enough to top five. Kind of like exactly what you said. I think
Yeah,
they, I think they have a great car to improve on. I think they'll have a good season, but I mean, I think for me personally to finish top three, to see them be in the top three, I don't. That's kind of far fetched for me, in my opinion.
yeah. I don't see them making a top three or even necessarily top five. And even if they do jump the Aston Martin, they are going to be dealing with a Hamilton with a car designated for race pace, allegedly. So
Allegedly,
yeah,
it'll be interesting. I'm excited for the race. Obviously, first race of the season. I'm praying and hoping, crossing my fingers that it's not the 30-second gap between Charles and Max, and he just runs
right,
away with it, and you don't see Max in the on the TV until the very end when he's passing, the
right,
finish line.
yeah.
But that very well may happen. But I think it's. I'm excited for the season. I'm excited for the race tomorrow. I think it is going to be fairly close, and uh, Max will win, but he'll have some. He'll have to dig deeper. I think this year. I really do think that's bound to happen.
Yeah, no, I definitely think you'll have to dig deep, and you might not have it as easy. So yeah, hopefully it's interesting. I think that we have a couple cars towards the back that will push forward, and so I think it'll cause some good racing.
I don't think Max will win every race this year. That's for sure. Checo wins the rest of them. Yeah, maybe Singapore. Watch them destroy Singapore this year. Like they just kill it. Like they're just prepped for it.
Right. They changed the car completely to work for the one track that the car didn't work at last year.
Right. That'd be fun to see.
Yeah. Well, and
Oh.
that's the thing. I mean, actually, everyone's able to run their cars so much lower. It seems like these cars
Mm-hmm.
actually look low,
They do. They're
and they're
scraping.
you yeah, and they're using all the curb too.
Mm-hmm.
Like we haven't seen them extend the track like they are in a very long time. I mean, using all of the curb on entry, all of the curb mid corner, all of the curb on exit, and the cars are taking it. So that makes it very exciting too. That means that they're starting to figure out these cars and how to make them work.
Yeah. Can you imagine next year? An extra year
Yeah,
on top of that? It's gonna be super eventful.
right. Yeah, it should be amazing. So, but yeah, anything else?
No, I think that's it. I think next time you see us tomorrow, we're hopefully shocked and something crazy happens. But
Yeah,
we'll see.
yeah, we'll see. But surely we will be the ones to hopefully keep you up to date. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we'll see you tomorrow.
All right.
Thank you for watching.
Wake up early.
Yes.
8 o'clock.